Welcome back, and it is time to quilt this brick street. So this quilt measures out to be about 50 wide by 60 long. So with 3 yards of fabric, I should be able to get a backing out of this. And I roughly measured this out, and there should be plenty to do as the backing. So that blue fabric lives another day. So I'm gonna get this all cut in half and ready to sew together, and then it's gonna be time to load it on the long arm. So I'm not quite sure which design I'm gonna do just yet, or even which color. I'm thinking white thread, and I'm almost thinking a star pattern, but I don't want to totally overwhelm the quilt with dense quilting because that's just not my style. But I do have a star design that I think would look really cool on it. I did it on the Happy Stripes quilt I did last year, so I think I may play with that one first or see if there's anything else out there that could be better. I don't necessarily want to buy something, but if something inspiration strikes that just screams Buzz Lightyear quilt, gonna have to happen, because obviously if you saw my stash before, I've got even more Buzz Lightyear fabric. So I'm gonna go get this backing ready, and then we're gonna load on the long arm. So just an update so you can see where we're at. Before putting the quilt top on, I did have to Frankenstein this batting together, which I'm learning is not my favorite thing to do with this polyester stuff. So my hands this time of year get really dry, so even with getting manicures fairly regularly, they just get really dry. And so this stuff likes to stick to my hands while I'm trying to Frankenstein it. And then things get a little wonky, so we're gonna make the best of it. I'm gonna kind of figure this out as it goes, get it as smooth as I can, but we're about to get the quilt top on, baste it in, and then it'll be time to quilt. Everything's basted in, ugly batting and all. Hopefully I won't have that weird shift like I did on the Nemo quilts that I'm having to stretch it once I get to the end of here. I think it'll be okay. We're gonna go with the starlets. I think that's gonna be a lot of fun on this Buzz Lightyear quilt. The stars are in there, but a little bit different shaped stars, but I think it's gonna work. So let's get going. So I am glad with the size of this star, how it is filling up this like negative space with the lack of Buzz Lightyear on here. So now that makes me feel better about these like odd quilting ones, because these stars are help filling it in and adding some texture to it. And I realize it does kind of match the shape of these stars, which are all over the back. So it's gonna be perfect. So now I'm gonna advance to the next zone and we're gonna get back to quilting. I went ahead and cut off that excess, so now it's time to get this off the frame and trim off all the extra excess and get the binding on. So just right now, seeing the brown against the green, I think that's going to look really good with the binding, and I think this is going to turn out quite nice. I did get a little close to the edge. I didn't pull my stitching all the way down. I clipped it a little further than I should have, but I think once the binding on, it's going to be awesome. So I'm top stitching my binding on here, and as I'm going along, I found this hole, and I really don't know what happened there. It was on the bottom, which was the first seam that I sewed on, and I don't remember doing that. That's super weird. So I'm gonna fix this hole and then get back to top stitching my binding, and then we'll come back for the quilt reveal. I've got my Pizza Planet t-shirt, and we're here for the reveal of the Brick Street quilt. So take a look. I have to say, even with its bold colors, I still really like this quilt. So far, we're what, 5 or 6 or 8 quilts in or something. I haven't met a quilt from my stash that I did not like yet. So this has turned out nice and fun, nice and bright and colorful and wild. And I love this little like peeking Buzz Lightyear in this top corner. That's one of my favorite little parts. But overall, this Brick Street quilt was super fun and super quick. If I was to do this again, I would suggest to myself or anyone else doing it to use a more medium to small, like tossed print versus these big giant things, because as you saw and as I grumbled about before was the like this block here that just says Buzz Lightyear in it and it's upside down. So I would look into smaller prints or something that's a little more tossed all over and able to fit better within that little rectangle. Let me show you why I'm a fan of piecing my backings more scrappy versus just sewing 2 fabrics together. And that's because this happens. Like, I took a fussy cut class once, and it was a year-long class, and now that's kind of like messed with my brain as far as like pattern lining up and stuff. So what I would do on a regular quilt that I was piecing a back for, if this was my option, is I would piece something in between those to kind of break it up so it doesn't look like they're accidentally unmatched, even though obviously that's what happens when you piece backings. So just my little brain, that's what I would do. And with this skinny border, I know that was the other complaint I filed. It's actually turned out pretty good with that binding being the same thing right up against the edge. It's almost like it was faced as a quilt instead of bound, where it's the same fabric all the way to the edge. But obviously on the back, we've got the brown there. Otherwise, I think this is great. Someone's gonna have a lot of fun with this. I still have to figure out what the pillowcase is gonna be, because obviously I have chunks of all these fabrics. I have enough of this one left after the backing to become the body of a pillowcase, but I don't know what I'm gonna do for the cuff and the flange, because I think doing this combo as a pillowcase might be a little much. The quilt's already pretty busy. I figure maybe I'll pick like some white for the flange, and then maybe some of that blue that's been floating around waiting to be a quilt back again. So we'll see. I'm gonna get this all rolled up so we can do a quilt drop and then show you some pictures, and we'll be on to the next quilt.